Yeah, peace. Hope everybody feeling great out here in this world. About to get into the show for the night, which is breaking down the movie Him, decoding the movie on the occult level. All right, let's get into this because first of all, Rotten Tomatoes then gave them a 31%, I believe it was, on their little scale. And when it comes to movies, everybody got their opinion, and I can understand why people didn't like it. You know, a lot of people say, they had some gripes about Marlon Wayans' character not having a backstory. I'm gonna explain why that was the case. I'm gonna explain a whole lot of things that went over a lot of people's head because you got to dig deeper than what they actually, give you. We know that Hollywood, of course, as what they call it is, gonna always give you things to look at deeper than what you can imagine. So because they already giving you the symbolism off the tops, a lot of people just look at it and like, oh, it's a bunch of Jesus stuff in there, religious stuff, a lot of stuff about the black and white checkerboard, all of the Freemasonry, references that's in there. So it's a lot of symbology in there, but I'm gonna break down the most important symbology that's in there because the the movie really break down into really like just a couple of things, and they real powerful things, but they really lie way up under the background, right? First thing, first theme of the movie Him, right? First theme of the movie Him is this is about the evolution of becoming a god. It's about alchemy, all right? That's off the tops. This is all about alchemy. That's why the symbol at the end when he walked in. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert if you ain't seen it. Shout out to you if you have. Yes, indeed. Everybody go check the movie out because it is an instant classic. I'm not playing around. It is an instant classic. But when he wakes up at the end on the seventh day, right? They show you the 6 days, and then they don't say it's the seventh day, but they showing you waking up, showing him waking up. So that's insinuating that's the seventh day. And he wakes up, and the movie is about the theme of the blood too. He was injecting the blood. They give him the last piece of the injected blood, but the symbol that he woke up to is this symbol right here on the Kabbalion. Remember, I've been telling y'all about the Kabbalion for years, the seven universal laws. So that's automatically telling you it's a cult. But this symbol right here specifically is an alchemical symbol meaning the philosopher's stone, right? And so let me get into this, right? Before I get into all that, let me break down the cover of this, right? The cover of this of the movie Him. You got Marlon Wayans saying it's a secret, don't tell nobody. So that's when they do promotions like this in movies, that's automatically a dead giveaway. Anytime you see them when they promoting the movie, they have one of the main characters giving a hush sign or whatever like that. It's letting you know it's a cult off the tops. Then for number two, you got uh Cam, what's his name? Let me look. Let me see what his name is real quick. I'll be tripping. I don't be knowing these people names for real. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, um, what I'm saying, mad love to him. He did an excellent job in the movie. What's his name? I got some notes here. Uh, Tyreek Withers. Tyreek Withers. I only seen the movie one time, but I'm doing all this off of memory and some notes that I done created. I can, you know what I'm saying? I can got the and I got the plot of the movie here, right? So in a nutshell, this is from name of these people. This is from Plot Explained, right? And so let me let me put y'all together right here, right? Let me finish explaining these two things right here. First, you got Marlon Wayans saying it's a cult. Then you got and his character name in the movie is Cameron K, right? So you got him standing in front of, actually, that's the Baphomet, right? That's the Baphomet, which is the symbol of what? It's a goat, right? When we say goat, we think the greatest of all time in the sports categories, right? Which hence this is also a football movie. You know, they gave a in the beginning of the movie, which is really important, right? Let me start breaking it down step by step a little bit and how I remember it, right? Because they'll give you the synopsis like, oh, he's K what's his last name? K Cameron K. Excuse me. I keep on wanting to call him K Cunningham because K Cunningham for the Detroit Pistons be killing him. So I don't want to keep on messing up the name, but the character name on here is Cameron K, right? And they will have you believe, based on the flow of the movie, that the movie is actually a real movie in the sense of he's actually going through these things, right? So the first sign that the movie is about the subconscious mind is the fact that he got hit upside the head, right? When they kept on showing him watching Marlon Wayans' character, which his name is what's his name in here? Isaiah White, right? So Marlon Wayans' character, Isaiah White, he's watching that Gator's watching Isaiah White play football. Isaiah White play for the Saviors, right? You watch him get a horrible leg injury, right? And so those two that dynamics already let you know that one, we're going to be talking about the higher self when it comes to Cade, and then we're going to be talking about the lower self when it comes to um Isaiah White, which is Marlon Wayans' character once again. And so that premise of the movie off the tops let you know, right? We talking about two of the same half. They let you know that at the end, right? When I say at the end, when he woke up and he was taking Isaiah blood the whole movie, right? And let me get into that step by step, right? Because it's so much going on. It's about how you are your DNA, you are your ancestors, right? I'm gonna explain the ending, I'm gonna explain everything, right? So is Heru and Set. That is the Egyptian or Kemetic understanding of who both Cade is. Cade is Heru, and Isaiah White is Set. If you understand the mythology on that deeper level, you understand that saying that they're one and the same, right? And they'll give you that example of it. That's why they kept on comparing Cade to like Jesus. That's why they had him in the picture in the scene of course, the most famous supper, the Last Supper, right? And all of those religious connotations is to give you the idea of what he's becoming, which he's becoming a god. And this is the path that you must take. This is the alchemy. That's why a big theme of the movie would appear to be sacrifice. Okay. And remember, they told him everything that he was going to have to give up. You gonna have to leave your wife, I mean his girlfriend, and but everything was going to already be built up for him. It was a lot of different moments in the movie where it was obvious that he was going to have to go that way, right? And then the sacrificial part, right? When it comes to him doing all the rituals and all of that, that's a big part of what we would call the conspiracy theories. And I'm going to get into the conspiracy theories of that in a minute. Because if the ending is taken in this occult context of what's going on here, based on the fact that, one, we know this movie takes place in Cade's subconscious mind, right? That's what the symbol on the head, the scar means. You know, we talking about the subconscious mind, right? So that's Osiris. That's why they made it a big deal for them to keep on going back to his father. With his father saying, he sacrificed all this for him, and then they allegedly killed off the father, right? And he was coming back to redeem his father. He is like, I ain't really want to play football no more, but now I got to come back and I'm redeeming my father. But they already told him, you've been groomed to be the GOAT. right? You've been groomed to be him. He's like, I am him. That movie's so good. It is an instant classic, I'm telling y'all. But so he was groomed to be the GOAT anyway. So what they're trying to tell you at the end is when they're uh he's getting that final dose of the blood, right? He's getting the final dose of Isaiah White's blood, and Isaiah White and him, they're getting ready to face off. When they get right inside the room on the door has the same symbol, the same Kabbalion symbol. You know what I'm saying? If y'all ain't got something like this, get y'all a book of symbolism. You know what I'm saying? It's a dictionary of symbolism right here. You know, uh, getting to know these symbols, that really step your game up when it come to really dissecting these movies. You know what I'm saying? This is just a great one to dissect because they put it right out on the table for you, especially at the end. Let me decode the end for y'all real quick, right? Because this is really all about the path of you becoming thyself, knowing that you are the God. This is the path of you, right? So when he beats up Marlon Wayans in the room that had the symbol on it, and he walks out the door, right? It's his agent, the owners, and all of them, and it look like it's a big old party. They got cheerleaders and all that stuff, right? So he looking at them. Now remember, first of all, he's standing out, he got his arms out, he looking, you know what I'm saying, like Jesus on the cross at one point. You know what I'm saying? They got that picture up there too as well, right? Where he looked like Jesus on the cross. He covered in blood, right? The blood represent not just Jesus on the cross. It represents the rebirth, the birth of him recognizing that he is a God. You know what I'm saying? That's why he's standing in front of the Baphomet, which the Baphomet, most people are getting confused and be like, oh, because in other movies they depict Baphomet as an evil entity, right? And so at the end of it, you would think that they, the owners and the agents and everybody that's up top, you would think that what they're representing is they worship the Baphomet as like whatever, and that he's signing his soul over. That's why they was like, oh, he's not signing the contract. The contract had absolutely nothing to do with him selling his soul or not. This is the part that people need to get right here. From my perspective, this is from my occult perspective. Everybody go have their own perspective on these things, but in my perspective, coming from an occult point of view, when you dig down deeper and you dig under the layers of what they're really trying to say, is what they're saying is the whole contract was designed to protect the owners and the agents from the entity, right? And that spiritual entity is only going to follow the commands of the God that's within the lineage, right? Of the DNA. This is so cold the way that they laid it out, right? Because he didn't sign a contract and then he killed all of them. Bow, bow, sorted them all out, right? So after he killed them off, remember the entity came back and killed his agent, right? And that was really the point of what they wanted y'all to see, is that the entity on his side now, it's on Cade's side now. So when Cade walking off, if you notice at the end of it, he give a little smirk, right? Cade give a little smirk when he walking off at the end. That's why you gotta go rewatch the movie, because that little smirk is basically saying, I know something you don't know, right? That's why they didn't end it with him necessarily going back to his life or anything else after that, because it's already taking place in his own imagination, right? It's his the transmutation of him becoming a god mentally. So even if he go back to that situation, it ain't going to necessarily even be about the so-called saviors or whatever team. You know what I'm saying? It could be a real so-called NFL team, or however they explain the history of it, letting you know that the ancestors, the Indians, when they told the story about that football team, and y'all can go look it up. And there's a lot of good people out here who did some reviews of this movie, and they break down a lot of the things that I'm not about to necessarily break down right here, because that's kind of just the surface level. That's the backdrop of the story. if you're not understanding what they're saying about the entity, then it doesn't even matter, because you'll be looking at it like, oh, it was just a ghost, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. It was a ghost was real in there, like that was the entity of the ancestors that now are able to fuck up the owners and all of them for all of these years, because we've been contracted as the gods not to, like, for them to do that, right? So the conspiracy theory behind that part, right, is that, for example, when you're born and you get a lot of the activists and a lot of people who represent for the indigenous people of this land, the people who don't look at themselves as part of this system in that type of way, right? They would consider something like a birth certificate, the birth certificate, as a contract, right? So that birth certificate is saying from day one, as a god. And in this fine, fine print, it's saying that the ancestors can't fuck with them. They're protected by the same. So it's like the ancestors, basically the entity of the movie on him, was basically like saying, oh, I want to fuck them up. Oh, I want to fuck them up. But y'all keep signing this contract. Y'all keep signing this contract saying that I can't, saying that y'all rather have the riches and all of that stuff of the world and go like that. That's why it was important. So in the beginning of the movie, when Kay first walks into the compound where they training at, right? When he first walks into that compound, and Marlon Wayans tells him to spill about the mascots, he tell him, don't be a mascot, right? If you understand the occult etymology of a mascot is basically exactly what you end up worshiping, right? Or it's the idea of something. Or the picture of it. So in ancient Egypt, it's like Thoth, right? Thoth got the ibis head, and whatchamacallit got the dog head. It's not that these people really was running around with animals depicted on themselves. It's an understanding that goes deeper, and that's why they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So they put them in these particular characters, right, to serve a purpose, as a reminder of power and all of these things. And it's still, that concept is still used today. That's even when it comes to like the logos on the NFL teams. That's why the Washington Redskins, we used to call them, they called the Commanders now. They was the team without a they was the team without a name for a minute, and you still got other teams like the Cleveland Indians in baseball. They ain't said nothing, but the Redskins was considered the derogatory part. That's in football though. And so that's why the movie has that football backdrop, to be able to try to give you the balance on what really happened historically. But it's really the context of what it takes to really be a god out there. And they use that historical event to actually tell a story of how the transmutation of becoming a god. And what they really saying is, it's really in your blood. It's really in your DNA, but you got to know this for thyself. So when he was injecting them with the blood throughout the whole thing, they was telling them like that was the process of becoming a god. You got to have it in your blood. You have to have it in your DNA. It has to happen subconsciously for you to manifest it within your human body, And so the law of vibration comes into play. You vibrate on a higher level. You vibrate on the mindset of a god. That's what a whole movie is really all about. And the ritualistic processes is what it takes. Like, you have to go through these things, in order to strengthen yourself. And so if he didn't go through the combine, if he just and that's why I say it's the process of you becoming a god. Everything you done went through in your life is the process of you becoming the god within you, and it's getting to your higher self, right? So at the end of the movie, he asked him, he said, what's the difference between he said, what's the opposite of a savior, right? Kay had asked Isaiah White, what's the opposite of a savior? And Isaiah White said, a killer. And Cade said, no, that's wrong. The opposite of savior is a mascot. And so that's the symbology behind the whole mascot thing, because it's really, you are, if you remember who you are and those ancient symbols of who you are and where all of that come from, and the understanding of how powerful you are mentally in your subconscious mind, then that's when you start to understand that you are the God, and you defeat that lower self of you, that human self of you. You know, that's why Cade's injury was a head injury, as I said, and Marlon Wayans' injury was a leg injury, because the leg represents the body. You know what I'm saying? So it's mind over the body here as well. Like, the movie is so dope. And they give you all of the ramifications, right? They give you all of the ramifications of the ritualistic process that they allegedly do in Hollywood, you know? And I ain't saying, because people, and that's the whole thing of a conspiracy theory, right? That's the psychology of a conspiracy theory. That's why all the ritualistic things were in the movie that he had to go through, because we live in the world of conspiracy theory, right? And he who believes in those conspiracy theories, right, is controlled by those conspiracy theories. And that's what goes on around you in this whole world. Anyway, regardless, right? So whether it's Masonic stuff, religions, or any of that, that's what you're going to encounter all along your way on getting to know thyself. These are all the things that you need to study in order to be able to get to know thyself. And then in the end, you are the one at the Last Supper. You are the Jesus. You are the, and then you are becoming the Horus. You become the Horus that defeats Set, right? In the mythology, redeeming the father Osiris, right? And that's the deep understanding of it on those particular things when it comes to the movie Him, when it comes to understanding the subconscious mind, right? When it comes to understanding the conspiracy theories that they implement in the movie. Because most people would say, like, all right, you got the 13 families that rule the world or whatever, and then you got all the stuff surrounding Rockefeller. And no, I'm not saying that ain't none of this happened, because a lot of it is documented, you know what I'm saying, as far as it being accurately true. And so then the layers on top of it become this as well, what's their agenda with all of this? That's why it was the agent that got uh destroyed at the end by the entity, because there is no agenda. There is no agenda for all of this. Their agenda to run the world and have domain over this world. This is the reality that's created here. That's going to be here anyway. When you walk out as the God and you take that mentality into any reality that you step into in any vibration, going forward in the rest of your life and afterlife and so forth. That's the evolution of becoming a God. That's what the whole movie is about. And they did it beautifully. They did it beautifully. Peel and the people, the guy that directed it, you know, let me see their name so I could give them their proper respect here in my notes, right? It's let's see, who is it? Let me go back to it. Tyreek Withers, whoop-de-whoop. Uh, Produced by Jordan Peele, right? Give him his proper flowers. They ain't got his the director in here, but the director did an excellent job. The end of it had like a nice little Kill Bill vibe to it, where he was killing off everybody. And it was important that he killed off everybody, because the idea of it is that these are all images. Everything you see is just a part of the subconscious mind and ideas that you created. So you created the idea of signing into the contract with these people in the first place, you know? And Marlon Wayans also on another level represents the gatekeeper. It represents the so-called gatekeepers of the world. So the so-called Diddy's or Jay-Z's or whatever that they would say, that's running certain industries and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And you can't get in unless you do what? You fuck with them, you know? And that's why he was the GOAT. You know, he represented all of those aspects and being a, that's why when he took them out into the desert or whatever and offered them all of them riches, right? You know, that was a symbolism of Jesus and the devil. And let me tell y'all a little something about the devil. All right. So this book right here by Napoleon Hill, right? This book right here by Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil. Is he the author of Think and Grow Rich, best-selling success book of all time? That book was Think and Grow Rich. But this is Outwitting the Devil, and they say this is the secret to freedom and success. But the whole book is a conversation, right? And it's a particular conversation that I want to extract out of this real quick. Let me try to find it real quick. I should have bookmarked it, you know, when he asked him a particular question in here. So the book is based on his conversation with the devil, and the idea of what you think a devil is a lot different than what most people would say the devil is, right? The idea of what most people think of when they think of the devil is Jesus and the devil, or in the context of the Bible, or the opposite entity that's running around here, you know, fucking with people, you know what I'm saying, in that type of way. Let me find it. You know, be a little bit patient with me, because it just came to me to just give y'all a little bit of insight on the opposite aspect of what you think about when you think of Horus and Set, Jesus and the devil, through this particular book right here. Let me see. I think it's towards the back though. I don't know. I just read it. You know how you just read it and then you be like, damn, where the hell is it at? Well, I definitely read it. Let me go to the table of contents. I'm definitely gonna get it out for y'all tonight. Let me see. Because this is at the beginning of one of these chapters, actually. But yeah, it tells the difference between what we consider as God or not. There it is. He said, so he asked the question, right? He asked the question. This is chapter 7, Seeds of Fear. Chapter 7, Seeds of Fear. I hope y'all enjoying the show, right? Hope y'all enjoying the show. He say, I have often wondered why your opposition, what we earthbound call God, does not annihilate you. Can you tell me why? And the devil's answer is, because the power is as much mine as his. It is as available to me as to him. This is what I have been trying to get over to you. The highest power in the universe can be used for constructive purposes through what you call God, or it can be used for negative purposes through what you call the devil. And something more important still, it can be used by any human being just as effectively as by God or the devil. Right? That is one of the dopest responses that you could think of, as far as like what would you think the devil would say. And when you understand the law of polarity, you start combining these two books together, you understand the law of polarity, you will see exactly what they were doing in this book. And so they gave you the human journey of the aspect of becoming a god, right? And that's why they said you were groomed for this, right? So it's basically they saying it's in your DNA, it's in your blood, and all of the symbols. The only symbol to me that really mattered was this one right here. When I synced that, and I synced the Baphomet at the end, and then I synced the way he killed everybody off, and how he walked away with that smirk, that definitively let me know that it's a movie about, like I said, it's a movie about the subconscious mind and the alchemy transforming your mental self into your highest God self. So therefore, it is a movie about you. It is a movie about what you should be doing out here. Because one of the things about the aspect of the ending of the movie is that what other choice did he have? If when you start thinking about choices, he was either, use his God energy and all of that to take everybody out, or what? Sign the contract? He say, I came all this way. I'm gonna eliminate that whole process, and now the entity got my back, my ancestors got my back, and there is no more agenda. I get to create whatever reality I want to outside of here as a god. And that's that God mentality. That's the God mentality you should be walking with every single day, waking up with every single day, saying to yourself, nothing but positive things, because really the aspect of it is like when it comes to the law of polarity, they try to give you the negative character. That's why they make it, you'll be like, oh, Marlon Wayans is so evil, and he did a hell of a job, but for the most part, it wasn't necessarily about evil. It was about what it takes to be the best, right? And you go through all of this ritualistic shit. Even you as a regular every single day person, is still all ritual. You waking up, you going to work, you waking up, you going to school, you waking up, you trying to figure out this life, and you got all of these different obstacles being thrown at you, and you're going to have to figure out how to perform your best through whatever stress or whatever you got going on. But remember, it's within your DNA to be able to overcome. That's why even the idea of slavery, right, is still like a triumph story when you really look at it, because you be like, damn, that was fucked up, but look where we at now. And even though the system is still gonna be the system, look how we continue to rise. Like, that's one of the reasons why I would be putting people up on trading stocks and getting into my day trading class. Because when you really understand the concept of being a god, you really understand the law of attraction and repelling everything mentally, and things come to you like you attract things like wealth to you. You understand you are wealth, you are abundance, and as a god, these things are your birthright. So the idea of being able to be rich and all of that, you don't even really necessarily need them. It's the system that exists that, if you don't believe in yourself, I bet you will sign an additional contract with them and believe in that contract. That's why in the rituals they make you do embarrassing stuff, you know what I'm saying? Or like they say in the movie, he say, I'll kill your whole goddamn family. I'm like, so what? Because in his mind, he understands what it is. Like, that's an aspect that y'all don't even really control anyway. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't exist. And that's why he killed them off in the end. Dope movie, dope movie, dope movie. Go check it out. You know, I was gonna show y'all a whole bunch of little PDFs and all of that other cool stuff. You know what I'm saying? I got them up here, but at the end of the day, I just break it down that way. You know what I'm saying? I just break it down that way, real easy for y'all. But I did have, let me see, I did have, the let me put it up here. What's this? Yeah, I did have. I just had the Baphomet really, and I had the meanings of the seven spiritual. Let me put this up here. All right, so I can break down the symbol for y'all. That's what I was gonna do real quick. Let me break down this symbol for y'all and show y'all what's going on with it, so y'all can not be afraid of it. Where is it at? Where is it at? I don't know. I don't feel like doing all of that. I can't find it on here. But with that being said, I'll maybe do that another time, or catch one of my previous videos. Catch out my spiritual stock trading for all the people that out there trading. I got my classes on up, right? And so eventually I will be having another class next year, so get ready for that, because that's going to be super duper duper dope. You know what I'm saying? This class is super super successful, and that's what it's all about. the evolution of becoming the God within yourself. Even for the movie Him, that's what I use. I use all of that energy and this interpretation of this movie to understand the steps that one must take in order to be able to, as they say, manifest, the reality that you want to be living in here. Because if you start believing that all of that conspiracy theories stuff is true to the detriment that it controls you and control your reality, then you won't be able to get what you want out of this reality. Every single time it'll be an excuse why, because they doing this and they doing that. And it shit ain't got nothing to do with no them. It's all about you. That's what this whole journey is a foundation on. The foundation of you. And understanding that can't nothing stop you. Not anything can stop you out here. I was watching one of those memes of Key and Peele. It was real funny. He was saying, telling the kids to jump out the window. They could fly. They could do anything, and they was like making a spoof about doing anything. The shit was funny as hell. But that's the point of it. Like, you really got to kind of think like that. Like, you could do anything out here, because what really is stopping you. And that's what the movie was really all about. The two sides of yourself and your lower self being eventually overtaken by that higher self, that higher mind frame, that higher mind state. That's why he also told him throughout the movie, he was like, I couldn't just bring you here and beat you up, or and kill you, because the goal is we got to be equal. you know. So he explained that to him. And then for the people who saying that, oh, they didn't give the backstory of Set, like that's the of Isaiah White, because it's the story of Set. So if you already understand the story of Set, you understand that they are two equals that are equally yoked together. So it's almost one body. And so basically, Cade is just in his mind fighting the other half of himself. That goat within himself, that is Isaiah Washington, that want to do it for all those other things. That's why when he had, threw up them gold and diamonds, that's a representation of that, of him rejecting the reality and all of the stuff that they supposedly supposed to be giving him. You know what I'm saying? He giving it all back to become the goat of himself. Like, it's so many layers to it. You know, the what else? I'm trying to do all of this off of memory, so bear with me. You know what I'm saying? But that's a big deal to the psychology of the movie. Understanding that the conspiracy theories surrounding all of the Freemasonry and the religions and all the contract signing, and with the team being the saviors and the Jesus aspect, all of that is conspiracy theory that's based on everything that's here in this reality, right? And so mentally understanding the path that one would be on, you ignore all of that. That's why I said at the end of the movie, when he walking away, he got a little smirk. Y'all watch. And the Baphomet also got a little smirk. If you ever see the Baphomet and you see a true picture of what they would call the Baphomet, got a smirk on it, because that's saying, I know something you don't know. And that's why Marlon Wayans got the be quiet, it's a secret. And that's the secret. That's the secret right there. It is the evolution of becoming a god, and it is also the uh, technically like a spoof on all the conspiracy theories of the world, of how the world is ran, and not necessarily spoofing it, but it's through explanation, it's through ritual that you become who you are. You don't become through who you are without having to go through some shit. Like, that's really the most powerful message that you could ever get from a movie, and it's to be a horror movie at that. You really gotta go through some shit in order to become what you truly want to desire in your mind, in your higher state of self. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, the greatest of all times, all of these people that's considered the ghosts, Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather, you know, anybody that's the tech savvy people of the world. You know, the people who create these video games, they consider themselves to be the GOAT of video game creating. The people who create all of these different clothes, and they consider themselves to be the best. If you're trying to take over the world, you got to consider yourself to be the best person to do it. If you're trying to leave a legacy here in a certain type of way, these are certain steps that you take. That's if you care about this reality like that, you know? But when you start realizing that this particular reality that we're living in right now is of the same, in an imaginary reality, it's just denser, it's realer. Yes, it's all of it can seem to be true, but in the understanding the power of now, understanding the moment of now, understanding that the past does not exist. So that's why when he went outside, it was like all of this stuff that was behind him, it kind of never happened. It was all dark in there, and he had beat him up with the helmet, hit him in the helmet, and said, "I'm a be a mascot," right? And when he come outside, it's bright, it's angelic, but he covered in blood. Like I say, that's a symbolizes the rebirth, the birth of a new God, the birth of a new mindset. He's standing in front of the Baphomet. He got his arms out, representing, as I said, the birth of what you would call a goat. And then, like, even when they say he was being trained since he was a kid, what is a kid? A kid is what? A baby goat. And so they could have started the movie with him in high school or whatever, and his dad just made the deal randomly. No, but they made it a point that he was groomed since he was a kid. And they also made it a point of showing that the owner already had been around, you know what I'm saying, that these deals already technically been made, but it's up to you to break the cycle, right? That's what the movie is all about. It's up to you to break the cycle, and that's a mental cycle of really even caring about what goes in this world, because what goes on in this world is going to always go on in this world, regardless of what age it is, whether it's ancient Roman times, whether it's ancient Mayan times, whether it's Egyptian times. You can't name me a time where it was just like pure peace on this earth, because don't nobody know if that time even existed. And so even far back into, as we reach into what we got so-called history and what we call humanity, it ain't nothing been wars with humans, right? And through what? Through so-called evolution, right? If you want to believe in evolution, then you got to believe and understand that humans came out fighting. You know, it's funny, but if you just have a different understanding of what this reality is for you as you walk through it, like for me, I walk through it and I look at it as I'm walking through a great scene of a bunch of shit going on around me, but I am centered in thyself, because this scene will always be going on, right? And so they give you necessarily a beginning and a middle and an end on every movie, but that's why the ending is left hanging off like that, because as a God, your story continues, you know what I'm saying? And you continue to create whatever you want after that. This is a dope movie. And everything that he went in between there is just all ritual to show the conspiracy theory side of it, to where are you going to get caught up in all of that symbolism in the background and take it on face value? Because the true understanding is this is the process of becoming a god. That's just everything that you got to go through. In this reality, as it applies to you, it's the same thing. It's the process of becoming a god. So you have all of these trials and tribulations that you have to go through, and it is what it is, but it helps to strengthen you to conquer your lower self, you know? Thanks for everybody for coming out to the show. I ain't gonna keep you all out too long, but hey, this is a great movie. I give it 2 thumbs up. In my back in the day, Siskel and Ebert, you don't nobody know who that is. You know what I'm saying? If y'all some young people, if you're from the old school, you do like, subscribe, and share to the channel. You know what I'm saying? That's what I really want y'all to do here. If you're enjoying the content, we doing this whenever we feel like it, you know what I'm saying? Have a nice little peaceful show. sign up for my next class when I have it next year. Eventually, I'll let y'all know when that is. First class is doing dope. We are everybody in the class. Enjoy the show. I am him. That's how you gotta be feeling out here, man. You gotta be feeling like you are that. You gotta be feeling like you are the one. You know? Nelly got a song. Nelly got a song called I Am Number One, right? He got a song called I Am Number One. A lot of people don't know that he was going after Jay-Z on that song. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, like all of the rappers had words. Like one of the biggest ideas of being a so-called successful rapper is saying that you the best. Lil Wayne say he the best. Like back in the day, it wasn't even necessarily about no GOAT in that type of demeanor, but it really was. It's always been a competition of who is the best. That's why all of these debates is over. Ain't no more debating. It's about know thyself. If you don't know thyself, then you debating everything else in the world. You debating whether these contracts is real. You debating whether the Illuminati is real. You're debating if the earth is flat or round. You're debating if they went to the moon or not. And as a guy, guess what? I don't care either way, because I know that this reality is built and designed for those arguments to exist while I'm here. Right? That's the evolution of being a guy. When I first started this channel, I'm gonna say this. When I first started this channel, I was on the journey, right? And through that process, as you go back and you watch the history of my videos, you can say, wow, it was a lot of growth here, it was a lot of growth there. And now I'm here with it. And it's a whole new understanding, because the more you study, the more you research, the more you evolve mentally into that God mentality kind of clicks. And it's like, oh, that's what's really going on here. And for me, it's more of this whole reality is designed for me to live it, understand it, and be the observer, as opposed to being fully engraved in it with my heart. And so when you take your heart out of it, and your heart is lighter than a feather, as they say, right? That's what the Egyptian mythology, your heart being lighter than a feather here. All of that killing that he did in that, it didn't happen. It's a movie of the subconscious mind. And so he understands. So once he got, that's why he walked away with that smirk. He know none of that actually happened. He know that he didn't kill off Marlon Wayans' character. He know he didn't kill off the owners and all of the agents. And he know he didn't go through that whole process, but he knew that he also went through that process because it was still mentally, but he could come out mentally as if he actually did that process. So if they actually, like, if they kept the movie going on, he'll be waking up in a hospital at that point, right? Being ready to get drafted by some other teams and stuff like that or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how the movie would continue. But they left it as a cliffhanger for the purposes of understanding that you take the mentality with you and continue your God journey from there, wherever you go, wherever reality, however you continue to create. It's the mentality that you take with you, and nothing that you think will happen, none of that shit really happened. It's just a stage, it's a premise. That's why they was out at the compound, you know what I'm saying, and away from everybody. And they were saying that it's like a cult, and it was like, if you understand what a cult is, it's OCCULT, it's hidden. And so that's why the compound was way away from nobody. Don't nobody know what's going on. So at the end of the day, even think about the movie. What he gonna do? Leave there and drive all the way back bloody home, tell everybody what happened? No. That's why it's a thriller. It's a psychological thriller, and they use the conspiracy theories to move the actual story along of the process of becoming a god. If I could say it that clean and simple, that's really what the movie Him was about. The actual process of the mental alchemy of becoming a god. Go get the book The Kabbalion. Go get the book The Kabbalion. Read the or listen to it on YouTube. A lot of good listens on YouTube when they come out. Outwitting the Devil, that's also on YouTube. Listen to those when you go to work. These are great books that help you get a better understanding of how you can be able to decode a lot of these books. because a lot of it are based on these principles, and it's a lot of ancient Egyptian principles that was in the movie. That's why I said if you know the mythologies, then you know how to start being able to insert the different characters and understand exactly what they're trying to say. And then it goes deeper than just knowing the characters. It's understand the psychology behind each entity that we describe here, because each entity in Egyptian and Kemetic mythology don't represent like a god on that level. It represents an idea. You know what I'm saying? It's deeper than an actual so-called God from the human standpoint of how a regular person view it. That's why they say they worship gods. No, they didn't worship gods. They understood the energies, and these gods represented those energies, right? And they are all energies that are all encompassed within you. And that was the whole point of them injecting him with the DNA throughout. Injecting him with the blood throughout the film, because that was a representation of the DNA of being a God is within you, right? And then once it becomes equal enough, there is a lower self. Once you understand that you are the God, you defeat that lower self. That's why Marlon Wayans wasn't hard to defeat. I wish they'd have let the fight scene be a little bit longer. That's probably my only complaint of this movie, is I wish they would have let them scrap it out for maybe like 5-10 minutes. That would have been well worth it, you know. As far as the plot and everything goes, like I say, it's a football based movie, but it ain't no football in it. It's just that's why you never actually saw an actual game. It's the whole process of becoming that, you know, the process of becoming a god, the transmutation, the alchemy. And that's the, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the word of the day is alchemy. The transmutation of a lower vibration to a higher vibration. They used to say from lead to gold, but the idea of it is mentally transforming, and that's what the movie was about. I say it once again, go see the movie Him. It is an instant classic, a cult classic. Good job, Marlon Wayans. Good job to make sure I got his name right. Good job to Tyreek Withers. All right. And once again, I am Fontaine the Titan. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Be on the lookout for my next stock trading class coming next year. I'm staying successful, peaceful, prosperous, healthy. Feel me? All right. Everybody out there, how y'all have a peaceful night. And once again, tighten up, tighten up, tighten up.